It was a quiet morning in the small town of Green Valley. The sun was soft, the streets were calm, and people were starting their day. But no one knew this day would soon become the darkest day of all. Sarah, a 17-year-old girl, sat near her small window, brushing her long hair slowly. She couldn't walk properly since childhood. One leg was weak, but her heart was strong. Every morning she helped her father, Mr. Rahim, with small household chores. She smiled often, a smile that could melt even the hardest heart. Her father worked as a mechanic in a local garage. They were poor, but their bond was pure and full of love. Each day before leaving for work, Mr. Rahim would say, "Be brave, my little flower. One day life will change for us." And Sarah would reply with a cheerful laugh, "Yes, Papa, I will make you proud one day." That morning, Sarah decided to go out to sell flowers near the town park. She made small flower bracelets and sold them to earn a few extra coins for her father. She walked slowly, holding her basket, her cane tapping lightly on the road. People who saw her often smiled. They admired her courage, poor girl, some would whisper. She never gives up, others would say. But for Sarah, life was simple. She didn't expect much, just peace and kindness. At the park, she sat near the old fountain. Children were playing, birds were singing, and the air smelled like fresh rain. A small boy came to her and said shyly, "One flower for my mom, please." She smiled and handed him a yellow rose. "Tell your mom this flower means happiness," she said gently. The boy ran away laughing, and Sarah looked at the sky. It was a good day, or at least it seemed like one. As the sun began to set, Sarah packed her basket and started her walk home. Her house was about 2 miles away, down a quiet road lined with tall trees. The road was empty. Only the sound of crickets filled the air. A light wind blew her hair as she walked, lost in thought. Suddenly she heard the sound of a car behind her. Slow, steady, getting closer. She stepped aside, thinking it would pass. But it didn't. The car stopped right next to her. It was a police car. Sarah looked inside and saw a man in uniform. He smiled. "Hey there, young lady. It's getting late. Need a ride home?" His voice was calm, friendly, but something in his eyes felt strange. Sarah hesitated. "No, sir." "Thank you. My house is close." The officer leaned out a little. "Don't worry. I just want to help. It's not safe to walk alone." She felt a bit nervous, but he was a police officer when a man of authority. She thought maybe he really wants to help. After a few seconds, she nodded softly. "Okay, sir. Thank you." He opened the door for her. Sarah slowly got inside, holding her basket of flowers tightly. The car started moving. The officer asked gently, "What's your name?" "Sarah," she said. "Beautiful name," he replied. "You're a brave girl, aren't you?" She smiled shyly. People say that. For a few minutes, everything felt normal. They passed the park, the shops, and the gas station. But then, the officer took a turn, not toward Sarah's house. Sarah looked out the window, confused. "Sir, my house is that way," she said quietly. The officer didn't answer. He kept driving. Faster now, the smile gone from his face. Her heart started to beat faster. "Sir, please, I think you took the wrong road." Still no answer. The air inside the car felt heavy. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Please stop the car. I want to go home." The officer finally looked at her, not with kindness, but with something dark. His voice was cold. "Don't worry. You'll be fine." Sarah's basket fell to the floor. The flowers scattered everywhere. She tried to open the door, but it was locked. Her trembling hand reached for her phone, but he snatched it away. Outside, the road was empty. No one to help. The car kept moving into a deserted area near the old railway track. At home, Mr. Rahim waited at the door. He looked at the clock, and it was past 8 p.m. He smiled softly. She must have stopped to talk with someone. But minutes turned into hours. The smile disappeared. He called her phone, no answer. He walked outside, asked neighbors, and no one had seen her. Panic started to rise in his chest. By midnight, he was running through the streets calling her name. "Sarah, Sarah, where are you?" The echo came back, but no voice answered. He went to the police station, breathless and scared. "My daughter is missing. Please help me." The officer at the desk looked at him carelessly. "Maybe she ran away. Girls do that sometimes," Rahim shouted. "No, she's disabled. She would never do that." But no one listened. He walked out of the station helpless. Tears rolled down his face. He looked up at the sky and whispered, "God, please bring my daughter back." Somewhere far away near the railway tracks, a faint cry broke the silence of the night. The sound was weak, full of pain, and from that moment the story of truth, pain, and justice began. The night felt endless for Mr. Rahim. He walked from street to street, shouting his daughter's name until his voice broke. The cold wind blew and his legs trembled with fear. He searched every corner, the park, the road, even the bus stop, but Sarah was nowhere. By morning his face was pale, his eyes red from crying. He hadn't slept for even a minute. He went again to the police station, holding Sarah's picture in his hand. "Please," he begged. "My daughter is missing since last night. Her name is Sarah Rahim. She can't walk properly. She was wearing a yellow dress." The officer at the desk looked bored. "How old is she?" he asked, typing slowly. 17, Rahim replied, his voice shaking. 17? The officer said coldly. "Maybe she ran away with someone." Rahim's heart dropped. "No, she would never." "She's not like that." But the officer didn't care. "Come back after 24 hours, he said lazily. "We can't file a missing report before that." Rahim stood there speechless. His hands shook as he whispered, "What if something bad happens to her?" The officer shrugged. "Sir, we have rules. Come tomorrow." Rahim turned and walked out, his hope slowly breaking. He sat on the footpath outside the police station, holding his head in his hands. He whispered, "Why is no one helping me? She's my only child." Hours passed. The sun was now high, but Rahim still wandered the streets. He showed Sarah's picture to everyone, shopkeepers, drivers, strangers. "Have you seen this girl? Please, she's my daughter." Some people shook their heads. Some avoided eye contact. No one had seen her. By afternoon, Rahim went to the small hospital in town. Maybe, just maybe, someone had brought her there. As he entered, the smell of medicine filled the air. He went to the reception and asked, "Did any girl come here last night?" "She's disabled and very young." The nurse looked through the records. For a moment, her expression changed. She whispered something to another nurse and then looked back at him. "Sir, please wait here." Rahim's heart started racing. He stood still, his hands trembling. A few minutes later, a doctor came out. "Are you Mr. Rahim?" "Yes." "Yes, I am," he said quickly. "Please come with me." They walked down a quiet corridor. Rahim could hear his own heartbeat echoing in his ears. The doctor stopped at a room door and spoke softly. "We found her last night near the old railway track. She was injured and scared. Some villagers brought her here." Rahim's eyes widened. "Sarah, my Sarah. Is she okay?" "She's safe now," the doctor said, "but she's in shock." "She's not speaking much." Rahim rushed inside. His daughter lay on the bed, her face pale, her hands bruised. Tears filled his eyes as he went close and whispered, "Sarah." "It's me, Papa." Her eyes opened slowly. She looked weak and frightened. When she saw her father, she tried to speak, but her voice cracked. "Papa." Rahim held her hand tightly. "It's okay, my child. You're safe now. Don't be afraid." She looked around nervously, her lips trembling. Where is he?" She whispered. "Who?" Rahim asked gently. Her eyes filled with tears. The policeman." Rahim froze. His mind went blank. He couldn't believe what he just heard. A police officer? The same people who were supposed to protect? He looked at the doctor in shock. The doctor looked down silently. Rahim asked softly, "Sarah, tell me, what happened?" But she shook her head and closed her eyes tightly as if the memory was too painful. Her body started to shake. The doctor stepped forward. "She needs rest. Please let her sleep." Rahim nodded, but his heart was burning. He stepped outside the room, his fists clenched. He whispered to himself, "A police officer did this? I will find him. I will not stop." That night, Rahim sat beside her bed. Sarah would wake up suddenly, crying and whispering, "Don't take me. Please don't take me again." Rahim's tears fell silently. He couldn't bear her pain. He remembered how she smiled that morning, how she said she would make him proud. And now, she was broken, scared, and hurt. Rahim looked out the hospital window. The police station's tall building stood far away, its lights shining in the dark. He whispered, "You wear a uniform of power, but you used it for evil. I will expose you." The next day, Sarah spoke a little more. Her voice was weak, but her words cut like a knife. She told her father how the officer stopped her, how she trusted him, and how that trust was destroyed. Rahim listened, each word stabbing his heart. When she finished, she held his hand and said, "Papa." He said, "No one will believe us, because he is the law." Rahim's eyes turned red with anger. He stood up slowly and said, "Then we will make them believe, even if I have to fight the whole system." Sarah looked at him, scared but hopeful. Her father's voice had changed, and no longer weak but full of determination. That evening, Rahim went again to the police station. He slammed his hand on the counter. "I want to file a report," he said firmly. The officer behind the desk laughed. "Oh, it's you again. Did you find your daughter?" Rahim glared at him. "Yes, and she told me everything." The room went silent. The officer stopped smiling. "What do you mean?" Rahim leaned forward and said in a cold voice, "She said a police officer did this to her." The officer's smile faded completely. For the first time, Rahim saw fear in his eyes. The man looked around nervously, then said, "You should be careful with your words. Mr. Rahim, sometimes the truth can be dangerous." Rahim's voice didn't shake. "I don't care. I will not stop until the world knows what your officer did." Outside the station, the wind blew hard. The dark clouds gathered again in the sky, and somewhere in the shadows a pair of eyes watched Rahim walk away, eyes filled with fear and rage. The storm had just begun. The morning sun entered through the small hospital window, but for Mr. Rahim, the world still felt dark. He sat beside Sarah's bed, holding her hand. She hadn't slept much. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that same horrible face, the face of the man who was supposed to protect her. Her father's heart broke every time she trembled. He wanted to ask what really happened that night, but he didn't want to cause her more pain. Finally, after a long silence, Sarah spoke softly. "Papa, can I tell you something?" Rahim leaned closer. "Yes, my child." "You can tell me anything." She took a deep breath. Her voice was weak, but her words were heavy. "When I was walking home, the police officer stopped me. He said it's not safe to walk alone. He smiled, so I thought he wanted to help." Tears filled her eyes. "But he didn't take me home, Papa. He took me somewhere else." Rahim's fingers tightened around her hand. He wanted to scream, but he stayed quiet so she could continue. "He said his name was Officer Malik. He said he only wanted to talk, but then his voice changed. He locked the car doors. I tried to open them, but I couldn't." Her breathing became heavy. "He drove to an old railway area. There was no one there. He said, 'Don't shout, no one will come.'" Tears rolled down her face. I begged him to stop. I told him I have a father waiting for me. I told him I'm disabled, I can't run. She looked away, ashamed and broken. But he didn't care, Papa. He didn't care about anything. Rahim's hands started shaking. His eyes filled with rage, but he stayed silent. He whispered, "You don't have to say more, Sarah." But she shook her head. "No, Papa, you must know the truth." Her voice broke again. "He said if I tell anyone, no one will believe me because he is a police officer. He said people will laugh at me." She covered her face and cried. Rahim pulled her into his arms, tears streaming down his own face. "No, my child. You are brave. You did nothing wrong. He is the one who should be ashamed." They cried together for a long time. The room was silent except for their sobs. After a few minutes, Rahim stood up. His face looked different now, not weak, not broken, but filled with fire. He whispered, "They said truth can be dangerous, but now I don't fear danger anymore." He looked at Sarah and said gently, "Rest, my child. I'm going to make sure he never hurts anyone again." Sarah nodded weakly, her eyes full of trust and fear. "Be careful, Papa." Rahim left the hospital and walked straight to the police station. When he entered, everyone stared at him. He went directly to the officer in charge, slammed his hand on the table and said, "I want to file a report against Officer Malik." The officer looked shocked. "What are you saying?" Rahim's voice was cold. "He kidnapped and hurt my daughter. She told me everything." The officer's smile disappeared. He looked around and whispered, "Mr. Rahim, please don't talk loudly. These are serious accusations," Rahim shouted. "Serious? My daughter's life is destroyed and you're telling me to stay quiet?" People started gathering around. Another officer quickly took Rahim to a side room. "Listen," he said softly. "You're making a big mistake. Malik is powerful. No one will believe you." Rahim glared at him. "Then I'll make them believe." The officer sighed. "You don't understand. If you push this, you and your daughter could be in danger. Rahim's anger grew. Then let danger come. I will not be silent. I'm not afraid anymore. He stormed out of the station. Outside, the sky was cloudy. The wind was strong. Rahim's heart was filled with both fear and determination. He knew the road ahead would be hard, but he couldn't stop now. As he walked home, he saw two men in plain clothes standing near his house. They looked at him strangely. One of them said quietly, "You should stop asking questions, Mr. Rahim." Rahim's eyes narrowed. "Who sent you?" The man smiled coldly. "We are just giving you advice. For your daughter's safety." Rahim stepped closer. "If anything happens to her, I'll burn your whole system down." The men walked away without replying. That night, Rahim sat alone in his room. He looked at Sarah's childhood photos, her smile, her innocence. He remembered how she used to run to him when she was little, holding his hand tightly, how the same girl was afraid to even close her eyes. He whispered to himself, "They think they can silence me, but they don't know what a father's pain can do." He took a piece of paper and wrote down everything Sarah had told him, the time, the road, the name Officer Malik. Then he folded the paper carefully and put it in his pocket. "This truth will not die with me," he said. The next morning he met a local journalist named Adil, a young man who often wrote about injustice. Rahim showed him the note and said, "You must tell her story. The world needs to know." Adil read it, his eyes wide with shock. "Sir, are you sure? This is dangerous. Police corruption runs deep," Rahim nodded. "I don't care. I have nothing left to lose." The journalist looked at him with respect. "All right, I'll help you. But we need proof," Rahim sighed. "Then let's find it." Back at the hospital, Sarah lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Every sound made her flinch. Every shadow reminded her of that night. But deep in her heart, she believed in her father. She whispered to herself, "Papa will protect me. He always does." Outside, Rahim walked under the cloudy sky, heading toward the place where it all began, the old railway track. He didn't know what he would find there, but one thing was clear in his mind. He would uncover the truth, no matter what it cost. And from that day, Rahim's fight for justice truly began. The next morning, the sky was gray and heavy with clouds, as if the world itself carried the weight of Rahim's pain. He stood near the old railway track, his eyes scanning every corner, looking for some clue, anything that could prove what had happened to his daughter. The ground was muddy. Broken bottles, stones, and pieces of old wood lay scattered around. Then near the bushes he saw something, a small piece of torn yellow fabric. His heart stopped for a moment. He picked it up slowly. It was part of Sarah's dress. His hands trembled as he held it close to his chest. Tears filled his eyes, but inside him, something stronger than pain began to grow. Rage. He whispered, "This place. This is where he took her. This is where he destroyed my child's peace. But this is also where his truth will end." Later that day, Rahim met Adil, the journalist, in a small tea shop. Adil had a small camera and a notebook in front of him. "Sir," he said quietly, "I've been asking around. Many people in this town know Malik. They say he's a powerful man and dangerous." Rahim replied calmly, "Power doesn't make him right. We will expose him." Adil looked serious. "We can't go directly against the police. We need solid proof. CCTV footage, witnesses, or someone from inside." Rahim took out the small piece of yellow cloth and placed it on the table. "This was found at the railway track." "It's from my daughter's dress," Adil nodded. "It's a start, but we'll need more." That evening, Adil went to meet one of his friends, an ex-police officer named Farhan. Farhan had worked with Malik years ago. When Adil mentioned Malik's name, Farhan's face changed. "Malik," he said slowly. "That man has been doing bad things for years, but no one dares to speak. He has friends in high places." Adil leaned forward. "Do you have any evidence?" Farhan looked around nervously. "Not with me, but there are records. Hidden files in the station. They keep reports about every officer, even the corrupt ones." Adil smiled. "Then we just need to get those files." Farhan shook his head. "You don't understand. If they find out you're digging, you could disappear." But Adil didn't back down. "We're not afraid anymore." While Adil searched for proof, Rahim stayed by Sarah's side in the hospital. She was healing slowly, but her fear hadn't gone. Sometimes she would wake up in the middle of the night screaming, "Don't let him touch me." Rahim would hold her hand and whisper, "No one will hurt you again, my child. I promise." But one night he noticed something strange. A man in a black jacket was standing outside the hospital gate, staring at the window of Sarah's room. When Rahim stepped outside, the man walked away quickly and disappeared. Rahim felt a chill run down his spine. He realized the threats were not just words, they were real. The next day, Adil called Rahim in a hurry. "Sir, I think we found something," he said over the phone. "There's a camera near the road where Malik picked up Sarah. If we can get the footage, it might show his car." Rahim's eyes lit up with hope for the first time in days. "Then let's get it," he said firmly. They went together to a small electronics shop owned by a man named Imran. Imran was nervous when he saw them. "I don't want trouble," he said. Adil replied, "We just need the footage from 2 nights ago. We'll handle the rest." After a long pause, Imran finally agreed. He checked his computer and opened the camera footage. They watched closely, the empty road, a few cars passing, and then a police car slowing down near Sarah. Rahim's eyes filled with tears. "That's him," he whispered. The footage clearly showed Malik getting out of the car and talking to Sarah. Then he opened the door and she got in. The car drove away in the opposite direction, not toward her house. Adil copied the video to his laptop immediately. "This is it," he said. "We have proof." But before they could leave, 2 police jeeps stopped outside the shop. 4 officers entered. One of them shouted, "Turn off the computer." Imran froze. Adil quickly hid the laptop in his bag. Rahim stood up and said calmly, "What do you want?" The officer smirked. "We heard someone is spreading lies about one of our men." Rahim replied coldly, "It's not a lie. It's the truth, and soon everyone will see it." The officer laughed. "Careful, old man. Sometimes truth can get people killed," Adil whispered. "Let's go." They walked out slowly, their hearts racing. That night, they uploaded a short clip of the video online, just enough to create noise but not reveal everything. Within hours, people started sharing it. Comments flooded in. "Who is this officer? Is this real? We need justice for the girl." The video spread like fire. By morning, news reporters and social media pages were talking about the mysterious case of the disabled girl and the police officer. Inside the police station, chaos broke out. Officer Malik watched the video with anger. His face turned red as he slammed his fist on the table. "Find them! Find Rahim and that journalist!" Meanwhile, Rahim and Adil hid in an old warehouse. The laptop played the footage again and again. Rahim whispered, "This is just the beginning." He thought no one would believe us. Now the whole world will. Adil nodded. "We'll take this to the media tomorrow. Once it's out, they can't hide it anymore." But outside, in the darkness, Malik's men were already searching for them. Their flashlights moved through the night like hungry eyes. Rahim looked out the window, his jaw tight. "They are coming," he said quietly. Adil swallowed hard. "Then let's be ready." And as thunder rolled across the sky, one truth became clear. The fight for justice had truly begun. But this was only the beginning of a much bigger storm. The night was silent except for the sound of rain hitting the roof of the old warehouse. Rahim and Adil sat near a small lamp, watching the CCTV footage again and again. Each second of the video burned like fire in Rahim's heart. "There he is," Rahim said softly, pointing at the screen. Officer Malik smiling. Pretending to help, Adil nodded. "This video is strong proof, sir. But it's not enough. The police can say it's edited or fake." Rahim looked confused. "Then what else do we need?" "We need something bigger," Adil said. "Something that connects him to the crime. Maybe his car records, his duty log, or hidden files from the station." Rahim sighed deeply. "Then we'll find them, no matter what it takes." The next morning, Adil got a message from his friend Farhan, the ex-police officer. "Meet me at the old bus stand at noon." "I found something," the message read. Adil and Rahim reached there on time. Farhan looked nervous, constantly checking around. He handed Adil a small brown envelope. "There are internal documents," he whispered. "They show where Malik's car was that night." The GPS tracker recorded every move. Rahim opened the file with shaking hands. The record clearly showed Malik's police car going to the railway track area at the same time Sarah went missing. Rahim's eyes filled with tears of anger. This is it. This is the proof we need. Farhan looked serious. Be careful. If they find out I helped you, they'll come after me too. Adil nodded. Don't worry. We'll protect you. But deep inside, all three of them knew. The danger was getting closer. By evening, the video clip had reached national media. News channels started showing the blurred footage with bold headlines. Police officer under investigation in disabled girl case. Social media exploded with comments and hashtags. People demanded justice, but at the same time, threats began to pour in. Adil's phone buzzed with unknown numbers. A rough voice said, "Stop your story or you'll disappear." Rahim received a letter at the hospital with only 4 words. Stay quiet or die. He tore the letter apart and whispered, I've already lost everything. What else can they take from me? Meanwhile, Officer Malik was losing control. Inside the police station, he shouted at his team. Who leaked the footage? Who helped them? The other officers stayed silent, afraid to speak. Malik slammed his fist on the table. Find that old man and the journalist. Bring me their names or you'll all pay. His face was red with rage. He knew his world was falling apart, and he would do anything to protect his image. Late that night, Rahim and Adil met again in a quiet corner of the city. Adil said, We need to release everything tomorrow, the car records, the CCTV, everything. Rahim nodded. Yes, once it's out, they can't hide anymore. But as they walked toward the bus stop, a black car slowly followed them. Rahim noticed it in the side mirror. Adil, someone's following us. Adil turned his head and saw 2 men inside the car. They started walking faster. The car stopped. 2 men stepped out, both wearing dark jackets. Mr. Rahim, one said, smiling coldly. You're making a lot of noise. The department doesn't like noise. Rahim didn't move. You should be ashamed. You protect criminals instead of stopping them. The man's smile faded. You should stop before something happens to your daughter again. Rahim's fists clenched. If you touch her, I'll destroy every one of you. Adil quickly pulled Rahim's arm. Let's go. Don't talk to them. They ran into the crowd before the men could follow. Later that night, Rahim sat by Sarah's bed. She looked tired but a little better. She smiled weakly and said, Papa, people are talking about my story, right? Rahim nodded softly. Yes, my child. The world is hearing your voice. She closed her eyes and whispered, Then I'm not afraid anymore. Rahim kissed her forehead. Sleep, my brave girl. He stepped outside the room and saw Adil waiting. Adil said, Tomorrow morning the news channel will air the full report. But I'm afraid they'll try to stop us before that. Rahim looked at him and said calmly, Then we'll move faster than them. Early the next day, they met Farhan again. He handed them another small USB drive. There's something more, he said quietly. Hidden evidence and files about Malik's past crimes. He's done this before, but the police covered it up. Rahim's eyes widened. He hurt other girls too? Farhan nodded sadly. Yes, he used his power to silence them. Adil connected the USB to his laptop. Inside were reports, complaints, and even signed papers showing how Malik's cases were closed secretly. Rahim whispered, He's a monster. And they protected him. Adil said, Now we have everything. Once we show this to the media, he's finished. That evening, just before the live broadcast, Adil got a call from the news studio. Sir, someone from the police came asking about your report. They said it's classified material. They looked angry. Adil's heart sank. They're trying to stop us. He turned to Rahim. We can't go to the studio. It's not safe. We need to upload the full video online instead. Rahim agreed. Let the world see the truth. They sat inside an internet cafe and uploaded everything. CCTV footage, car GPS records, Malik's secret files, and witness reports. The video went live. Within hours, it spread everywhere. People shared it, shouted for justice, and demanded action. News anchors called it the hidden evidence case. At the same time, police sirens echoed outside. Adil looked out the window. They found us! Rahim grabbed the laptop and said, It doesn't matter now. The truth is already out. The door burst open and police officers entered, shouting, Hands up! Rahim stood tall. You can arrest me, but you can't arrest the truth. The officers pushed them to the ground, but even as they were dragged away, Adil's phone buzzed nonstop. Messages, notifications, and calls from across the country. The world had seen the truth. There was no going back. That night, Officer Malik watched the news with trembling hands. His name was everywhere. His crimes were no longer secrets. He threw his badge on the table and shouted, "This isn't over!" But deep inside he knew. His power was fading, and far away, in a small hospital room, Sarah smiled faintly in her sleep. Her father's fight was not over yet, but the world had finally started listening. The city was quiet that night, but Rahim's heart was not. The news had already spread everywhere. Everyone was talking about the hidden evidence case. Some people praised him for his courage. Others warned him to stay silent, but deep inside, Rahim knew this fight was far from over. Around midnight, Rahim's old phone buzzed. An unknown number flashed on the screen. He hesitated for a moment before answering. "Mr. Rahim," a deep voice spoke. "If you want to finish this case, come alone. Tomorrow night. Old Bridge near the river." Rahim's hands froze. "Who are you?" The voice replied coldly. "Someone who knows the truth about Officer Malik. Bring no one. If you come with the journalist, you will never see your daughter again." The call ended before Rahim could ask more. He stood in silence, the sound of rain echoing outside his window. Every part of his body told him it was a trap, but another part whispered that maybe, just maybe, this was the key to everything. The next morning, Adil came to meet him. He looked tired but hopeful. "The video is everywhere. Malik has been suspended." "We did it, Rahim!" Rahim nodded, but his face showed no joy. "There's something else," he said softly. "Someone called me last night. He wants to meet alone." Adil frowned. "Alone? That's dangerous. What if it's a trap?" "I know," Rahim said. "But if there's even a small chance that he knows the truth, I have to go." Adil tried to stop him, but Rahim placed a hand on his shoulder. "You've done enough, my friend. You've given my daughter a voice. Now let me finish what I started." That night the air was cold. Fog covered the streets like a white blanket. Rahim walked slowly toward the old bridge near the river. The sound of his footsteps echoed in the empty night. He looked around. No one was there. Only the distant sound of water and the whisper of the wind. Then from the shadows a man appeared. He was tall, wearing a long coat, and his face was half covered with a scarf. "You came alone," the man said. "Yes," Rahim replied. "Now tell me, who are you?" The man stepped closer, handing him a small black bag. "Inside are files, videos, and reports. They show what Malik did, not just to your daughter, but to others too." Rahim opened the bag slightly and saw papers with police stamps, photos, and confidential notes. He looked up in shock. "How did you get this?" The man looked away. "I used to work with him. I was part of the system, until I saw what he did. I couldn't stay silent anymore." Rahim's eyes filled with tears. "So you knew? You knew and didn't stop him?" The man's voice broke. "Yes, and that's my sin. I'm giving you this to make things right." He looked at Rahim one last time. "But be careful. Malik is not working alone. There are powerful people behind him. Politicians, businessmen, officers. They'll destroy anyone who tries to expose them." Before Rahim could speak, the man turned to leave. But then headlights flashed from the other side of the bridge. A black SUV stopped suddenly, and armed men stepped out. Rahim froze. The mysterious man whispered, "Run," and pushed him behind a wall. Gunshots echoed in the night. Rahim ducked as bullets hit the metal railing near him. The man fired back, but he was outnumbered. Rahim shouted, "Come with me," but the man shook his head. "Go, save the files." Another bullet hit the man's shoulder. He fell but managed to throw the black bag toward Rahim. Rahim caught it and ran through the fog, heart pounding, feet slipping on the wet ground. Behind him, more gunshots, and then silence. He didn't dare look back. After running for several minutes, Rahim reached an old building and hid inside. His breath came fast, his hands shaking. He opened the bag again. It was still there, safe. Tears rolled down his face. The man who tried to help him was probably gone, he whispered. "I promise. I won't let your sacrifice go in vain." At dawn, Rahim finally called Adil. "Where are you?" Adil asked anxiously. Rahim replied in a trembling voice, "I have the final proof, but they're coming for me. Meet me at the bus station in 1 hour." Adil rushed there immediately. When they met, Rahim handed him the bag. Adil opened it, his eyes widening. This, this is huge. These files show a whole network of corruption. Malik was just a small part of it. Rahim nodded. Yes, that's why they tried to kill me. Adil said, we'll go to the media again. We'll expose everyone. But Rahim shook his head. Not this time. We can't trust anyone. We'll share this directly with the people. As they planned their next move, Rahim's phone buzzed again. A new message appeared. You were warned. You can't hide forever. He looked at Adil. They know where we are. Adil's eyes widened. Then we leave now. They quickly packed the bag and ran out of the station. Behind them, 2 police cars entered the area, sirens blaring. Rahim and Adil disappeared into the narrow streets, holding the truth that could change everything. That night, far away from the city, Rahim sat under the stars, staring at the black bag beside him. He whispered softly, Sarah, my child, I'm close now. Very close. His eyes burned with determination. The fight was no longer just for his daughter. It was for every innocent person crushed by power. He looked at the horizon where the sun was slowly rising. And in that moment he promised himself, no matter what happens, the truth will not die. The sun had not yet risen, but Rahim and Adil were already on the move. After escaping from the police at the bus station, they hid in an old farmhouse outside the city. The air smelled of dust and fear, yet inside Rahim's eyes burned with only one thing: determination. The small bag full of secret files lay open on the table. Papers were spread everywhere, reports, photos, videos. Each page told a story of corruption and pain. These files, Adil whispered, they don't just prove Malik's guilt. They expose the entire network, officers, judges, politicians, everyone who helped hide his crimes. Rahim looked at the papers silently, his fingers trembling as he turned each page. For years, these people destroyed innocent lives. They thought no one would ever stand against them. He looked at Adil. But now it's time the world sees who they really are. Adil nodded. We'll go live tonight. No TV channels. No newsrooms. We'll upload everything online, directly to the people. Rahim agreed. Yes, they can silence media, but they can't silence truth once it's in everyone's hands. Adil started preparing. He connected his laptop to a weak internet signal, scanning all the files. Rahim watched him, his mind filled with memories. Sarah's smile, her screams, her courage. He whispered, Sarah, my daughter, your pain will bring justice not only for you but for many others. By evening, the sky turned red. Clouds gathered as if nature itself was preparing for a storm. Rahim sat quietly, his phone in hand. Messages of hate and warning still came every few hours. But this time, he didn't care. At exactly 8 p.m., Adil pressed the upload button. Hundreds of documents, secret photos, and voice recordings went live across social media, labeled under one name: The Truth of Power. Within minutes, the internet exploded. People from every city started sharing, commenting, shouting for justice. Can this be true? How could the police do this? We stand with Sarah. The story spread faster than anyone expected. TV channels were forced to pick it up. Journalists who once stayed silent now began to speak. In his office, Officer Malik watched the news with rage. His hand shook as he threw his phone across the room. Who did this? He shouted. Who let this go viral? One junior officer hesitated. Sir, it's everywhere. We can't stop it now. Malik's face turned pale. He knew what this meant. His career, his power, his protection. Everything was gone. He picked up his gun, pacing the room like a trapped animal. They think they can destroy me with a video, he said bitterly. They have no idea who they're fighting. But deep down, fear had already started eating him from inside. Meanwhile, Rahim and Adil watched the reactions online. The comments poured in by the thousands. Some people cried after reading Sarah's story. Others called for protests. Adil smiled for the first time in days. Look, Rahim, the whole country is with us now. Rahim's eyes glistened. This is what truth does. It wakes sleeping hearts. Soon, major news channels started calling Adil for interviews, but they ignored all requests. They didn't want fame, they wanted justice. The next morning, protests filled the streets. Students, families, even retired officers joined, holding signs that read, Justice for Sarah. End police corruption. The city that once ignored a poor man's pain now echoed with his voice. In front of the police headquarters, thousands gathered peacefully. People chanted Rahim's name, but he stayed hidden not because of fear, but because his mission wasn't over yet. He told Adil, "They'll try to arrest us soon, but we must make sure every file is safe." Adil nodded. "I've backed up everything online. Even if they delete it, it will come back again." Rahim smiled faintly. "Then we've already won." Later that evening, government officials held a press conference. They couldn't deny the truth anymore. A serious-looking officer announced, "Officer Malik has been arrested. A full investigation has started into all involved parties." The reporters shouted questions. Why did it take so long? Who protected him for years? But the officials had no answers. The video of Malik's arrest spread everywhere, handcuffs around his wrists, his head bowed low as cameras flashed around him like lightning. Rahim watched the footage quietly from a small cafe. He didn't smile, didn't clap. He just whispered, "Justice begins." But it's not complete yet. Adil looked at him. "You did it, Rahim. The world knows the truth now." Rahim shook his head. "No, my friend, we did it. And Sarah gave us the strength." That night, the whole country seemed awake. On every screen, people watched the story of a father who fought against power for his daughter. A simple man who became the voice of justice. In the hospital, a nurse showed Sarah the news on her phone. The little girl watched her father's photo on the screen. She smiled weakly and said, "Papa won, didn't he?" The nurse smiled back. "Yes, my dear. Your papa showed everyone what truth looks like." Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of pride. Far away in a dark jail cell, Officer Malik sat alone. His eyes stared at the cold wall. The power he once used to hurt others was gone. He remembered Sarah's face, her fear, her trust, and guilt finally broke him. He whispered to himself, "I destroyed everything, even my soul." For the first time, tears rolled down his face. As dawn broke, Rahim stood near the same bridge where he had met the secret man. The river flowed softly beneath him. He held a photo of Sarah and whispered, "The truth has come out, my child. The world knows your story now." The wind blew gently, almost like a blessing. He closed his eyes and felt peace, something he hadn't felt in a long, long time. But deep inside, he knew the final battle still waited. In the courtroom, where justice would be truly decided, the courtroom was silent. Reporters, cameras, and citizens filled every seat. Everyone was waiting for the most important hearing of the year, the People vs. Officer Malik. Rahim sat in the front row, his face calm but his eyes full of pain and strength. Next to him sat Adil, holding all the documents and videos that had shaken the country. At the back of the room, Sarah sat in her wheelchair, her small hands trembling but her eyes shining with courage. The judge entered. Everyone stood. "Today," the judge said firmly, "we will hear the truth the whole nation has been waiting for." The lawyer from Malik's side stood first. He smiled confidently and began, "Your Honor, my client has served this nation for 20 years. He has arrested criminals, protected lives, and now he is being falsely accused by a poor man seeking attention." He turned toward Rahim and said loudly, "This man is not a hero. He is a liar." The courtroom murmured. But Rahim didn't respond. He simply looked at Sarah, remembering her tears, and whispered to himself, "Truth needs no noise." Then it was the turn of Adil and Rahim's lawyer. He stood and spoke clearly, "Your Honor, this is not about a poor man or a police officer. This is about justice. Justice for a young disabled girl who was betrayed by the very system meant to protect her." He played the CCTV video on the big screen. Everyone watched in silence as Malik's police car appeared, stopping near the railway road, the same night Sarah went missing. Then came the GPS records, the secret files, and the witness reports, everything Rahim and Adil had risked their lives to collect. The lawyer continued, "And if this was not enough, here are the voices of other victims, girls who suffered because Officer Malik used his power to silence them." The courtroom filled with gasps. Even the reporters stopped writing for a moment. Malik's face turned pale. He stood up suddenly and shouted, "All lies. These files are fake." The judge banged the gavel. "Order in the court." Rahim's lawyer calmly said, If they are lies, then please explain this. He held up a paper, Malik's own signed confession from an earlier case that was covered up. Malik's body froze. He couldn't speak. The judge leaned forward. Officer Malik, do you deny this is your signature? Malik looked down. His lips moved, but no words came. Then Rahim stood up slowly. Your Honor, he said softly, may I say something? The judge nodded. Rahim walked to the center of the courtroom. His voice was calm but powerful. I am not a lawyer. I am not rich. I am just a father. He looked at Malik and continued. You wear a uniform that people respect, but behind that uniform you became a monster. You didn't just hurt my daughter. You broke her trust, her safety, her dreams. He pointed at the files. All this proof shows your crime, but I don't want revenge. I just want justice, not only for Sarah, but for every girl who was too afraid to speak. The courtroom fell completely silent. Even Malik lowered his head. Then something unexpected happened. Malik's lips started to tremble. He looked at Rahim with tears in his eyes. I'm sorry, he whispered. I can't undo what I've done. I was proud, I was greedy, I was cruel. And now I'm empty. Rahim's eyes filled with tears. Sorry doesn't heal wounds, but truth can stop others from being hurt. The judge took a deep breath. Officer Malik, he said, for your crimes against the innocent, for the abuse of your power, this court sentences you to life imprisonment. The gavel hit the desk. Justice, and at last the crowd stood and clapped softly. Reporters rushed outside to break the news. But Rahim didn't move. He simply looked at Sarah. She was crying quietly, her small face glowing with relief. When Rahim walked to her, she smiled and whispered, Papa, it's over, right? Rahim knelt beside her and held her hand. Yes, my brave girl. It's over. You're free now. She hugged him tightly, whispering, You didn't just save me. You saved many girls. Adil stood nearby, watching with pride. He said softly, The world needed to see that even one man, if honest, can fight the whole system. Rahim smiled through his tears. No, Adil. The world needed to remember that truth never dies. Days later, the story of Rahim and Sarah became a symbol of hope. Schools started teaching about courage. Police officers began training programs to protect victims better. People began to trust that maybe, just maybe, justice could win again. One evening, Rahim and Sarah stood near the same bridge where everything began. The sky was orange with sunset. Sarah held her father's hand and said, Papa, this place used to scare me, but now it feels peaceful. Rahim smiled gently. That's because we faced our fear and turned it into strength. They stood silently for a moment, listening to the soft sound of the river. Adil arrived with his camera. He said, The world wants to hear your final message, Rahim. What will you say? Rahim looked at the camera with calm eyes and said, Justice is not about revenge. It's about truth. If you are silent, the wrong will win. But if you speak, and even with fear in your heart, truth will always find its way. Adil turned off the camera slowly. The wind blew softly through the trees, and for the first time in a long while, Rahim smiled, a smile of peace. As night fell, the stars shone bright over the quiet river. Sarah looked up and said, Mama must be watching us, right? Rahim looked at the sky, his eyes wet but full of light. Yes, my child, he whispered. She's proud of you, and so am I. They walked away slowly, a father and daughter who had faced darkness and brought light to the world. And their story, born from pain, became a lesson for everyone. No power is greater than truth. No love is stronger than a father's heart. The end.